Okay, class. Now that we've gone over the 5 rules and we've reviewed minor, major, and semicircles, minor, major, arcs, and semicircles, let's answer some questions on page 607, specifically questions 12 through 31. They ask us here, determine whether the arc is a minor arc, a major arc, or a semicircle of circle R. We know it's circle R because the center of our circle is R. So let's take a look here. Arc PQ. Well, PQ is less than half the circle, so we know that it is a minor arc. Let's take a look at arc SU. Arc SU, again, its endpoints are not a diameter, it's less than half the circle, so it is also a minor arc. Let's take a look at arc PQT. PQT. If you notice here, the endpoints of this arc, of arc PQT, are in fact a diameter. Going one chord, a special chord, through the center of the circle to the other side, which means then that arc PQT is a semicircle. Let's take a look at arc QT. Here we have arc QT. Again, it's less than half, so it's a minor arc. Arc TUQ. Here's TUQ. Wow, look at that. T to U and then U to Q. Well, we can see here that this is half a circle because here we have a diameter. So TUQ is taking half this circle and this little part here, so we know that's more than half. So we know that it is a major arc. It is a major arc. Let's take a look at number 17. Arc TUP. TUP. TU to P. If you notice again, the endpoints of this arc are a diameter. So we know that TUP is a semicircle. Semicircle. Let's take a look at number 18, arc QUT. Well, here's Q. You might be thinking, Mr. C, if I go this way, I'm going to hit the T first. Remember that you always want to go in the order of the letters. So you want to go to, if you go this way, you're going to hit the T first, so you'd have to go the other way. Q, U, T. Q to U to T. Notice that from Q to U, that's a diameter. That's half the circle. So I'm going a little bit more than half the circle, so that's going to be a major arc. That's going to be a major arc. Let's take a look at number 19. Arc PUQ. PU to Q. We can see here from PU to Q, that's almost the entire circle. So again, we have a major arc. From P to U all the way to Q. We're doing all this out here and we're just leaving out arc PQ. Let's take a look at questions number 20 through 31. Now they're asking us to find the measure of the arcs. And they tell us in the instructions, they tell us that Kn and Jl are diameters. So I know then that K to N, I know that this is a diameter here, so that I'm not confused. Let me put that in pink there. There is one diameter. And they also tell me that JL is also a diameter. Okay. Does that mean that we may not have other, well, take a look there. Are there any other diameters in the picture? I currently do not see any. So let's take a look here. They want us to give the measure of the indicated arc. So number 20, arc KL. Let's take a look here. KL, well, what's the central angle for arc KL? It's 60 degrees, right? So for K to L, then this is also going to be 60 degrees. So from K to L, it's going to be 60 degrees. 60, like that. There you go. How about number 21, arc MN? Well, again, here's arc MN. If you notice, the central angle of arc MN is 55 degrees. So then we know that arc MN is also going to be 55 degrees. Let's take a look at number 22, the measure of arc Lnk. So we're going to go from L to N to K. Wow, that's a long way. Well, we notice here that we have some missing information. For example, I don't know what this central angle here is. I don't currently know what this central angle here is. Can I put in that information? Sure. I know that this is a diameter. So that means that I know that if this is diameter, this is half the circle. And I know that in half a circle, there is 180 degrees. So if I add this arc and this arc and this arc, all the arcs together should add up to how much? To 180 degrees. Well, I know that this one is 55, and I know that this one is 60. How am I going to find this missing arc right here? Well, if you said add these two together and subtract from 180, you're absolutely correct. So let's add those arcs together and subtract them from 180. 55 plus 60 degrees gives me a total of 115. I've used up 115 degrees so far. And that means that I'm missing 65 degrees to make a total of 180. So then this arc out here is going to be 65 degrees, which means then that this central angle out in here is also going to be 65 degrees. And all these angles together equal 180, a straight line. All these arcs out here equal 180, a semicircle. But before we move on, is there any additional information I can fill in? Well, sure. Notice that JL, they told us JL is also a diameter, meaning that this is a semicircle as well. Well, what's the missing angle here? How am I going to find this missing angle here if all of these three angles create a straight line and this is a semicircle of 180 degrees? How do I find this here? Well, if you guess that I add these two together and subtract it from 180, you're right again. So let's add those two and let's subtract it from 180. So 55 plus 65 is 120 degrees. And 120 minus 180 is going to give us 60 degrees. So we know then that this arc out here is going to be 60 degrees, and this central angle in here is also going to be 60 degrees. Well, are we still missing some information? Is there some information that we can put in by ourselves? Well, can we figure out this angle here, this central angle here, and the arc that it creates? Sure we can. What's the magic number? How many degrees are there in a circle? Well, we know that a circle has 360 degrees. And all I'm missing is this little part right here. So if I add all of these parts together, all of these arcs together, and subtract it from 360, I'll know how much is missing from J to K, or angle JQK, or arc JK. So let's add all of these together and subtract it from 360 degrees. Well, let's take a look here. I'm going to add 60, 55, 65, and 60. So 60 plus 55 is equal to 115. Let me do that again. 60 plus 55 plus 65 plus 60 comes out to be 240 degrees. So when I add all of these together, it comes out to 240 degrees. So I'm going to take 360 minus 240, and that's going to give me 120 degrees. So then I know that this angle here is going to be 120 degrees, and this arc out here is also going to be 120 degrees. And if I add all of them all up together, they equal to 360. And now that I have that missing information, well, now I can answer the rest of the questions. Let's go back to question number 22. Then when they wanted to know the measure of arc Lnk. Well, let's take a look here. From L to N, I can add these two together all the way to K. Wow, so I'm adding this arc here, this arc there, and all the way to K. So I'm adding 65 plus 55 plus 60 to K, because I always go in the order of the letters from L to N to K. So let's add all those arcs together. 65 plus 55 plus 60 plus 120. Well, notice that I left out this little part right here. I mean, you can do it the long way. You can add all of these together and subtract it from 360. Or you notice that I have all of these arcs here minus the 60. I did everything except for 60 degrees. Well, if a circle has 360 and I'm doing all of the arcs except just for 60 degrees, well then common sense is going to tell me that this is going to be 300 degrees. So if you want to do the long way and add them all together, you can do that. Or you could just notice that, wait a minute, all of these together, all of them should equal 360. I'm leaving out this little bit here, which is 60. So if I added all of these, I'd get 300. Let's take a look at number 23, arc MKN. Well, here's M to K to N. Let's add these together. So M to K to N. So I'm going to add 65, 60, 120, and then the 60 here. Let's go the long way. MKN. Let's add all those up. So 65 plus 60 plus 120 plus 60 degrees gives me 305 degrees. So the measure of angle MKN is 305 degrees. Another way you could have done it is, well, notice that you're going from M to K to N. You're doing all of this part of the circle and you're leaving out the what? The 55. Well, again, how many degrees are in a circle? 360, right? And you're using up all of them except for what? 55. Well, if you take 360 minus 55, it's going to give you what? 305. But if you want to just add them all up, you can go ahead and do that. That's okay if you want to make sure. Just add them all up. Let's take a look at question number 24. Arc NJK. Here's N to J to K. NJK. Well, you know what? You can add the 60 and the 120, but notice that the endpoints are what? Are this diameter here? Isn't a diameter what makes up a semicircle, half a circle? So from N to J to K, I'm going from this part of the diameter to that part of the diameter. I know that's a semicircle, so I know it's going to be what? 180 degrees. And by the way, if you add up the 60 here from N to J and from J to K, the 120, you're going to get 180. Let's take a look at number 25, arc JML. JML. So we're going to go from J to M to L. J to M to L. Again, I'm starting at J at this part of the blue line, and I'm ending at the other end of the blue line, which is the diameter. So that already that's code for semicircle. So again, it's going to be 180 degrees. And if you don't believe me, if you add these from J to M to L, 60 plus 55 plus 65, it's going to give you 180. Number 26, we got arc JQN. Where's my J? Here's J. Where is Q? Where's the Q? Oh, I'm sorry, right here. So they want the measure of the angle. I'm sorry, I missed that sign. These are arc symbols. Here's an angle. They want the measure of angle JQN. Well, that's easy. JQ. Where's N? There it is. JQN. JQN. Well, here we go. JQN. And we can see here that that angle is 60 degrees. There it is, 60 degrees. What about the measure of angle MQL? Let's take a look here. Angle MQL. Where's the M? Here's M to Q to the center to L. MQL. So here I have a central angle again, where Q is the vertex, MQL, that's 65 degrees. So this is going to be 65 degrees. Number 28 is asking for arc JN. Well, here we go. JN. There it is. JN is 60 degrees. So that arc is 60 degrees. Number 29, arc ML. Here's M to L, which is 65 degrees. Our central angle is 65. And so I know my arc is 65. And arc JM. Where's J to M? Here we go. J to M. Well, and that's going to be what? It's going to be from J to M is what? 60 plus 55. What's that going to give me? Let's take a look here. 60 plus 55 is 115 degrees. And finally, question number 31, Ln. From L to N. We're going from L to N. The measure of arc Ln. Well, again, this is 65 plus 55. We add those two together. 65 plus 55, and that gives us 100.